Good evening, community members. This is your Black History Moment for Monday, February 5th, 2024. I often hear people say that nothing has changed. Well, today we will take a look at the changes in officer involved shootings and as shootings related to unarmed black men between the years 1999 and 2020. Today would have been Trayvon Martin's 29th birthday. But before there was a Trayvon or a Philando Castile, there was Amadou Diallo in New York City. The tragic case of Amadou Diallo begins 5 days before February 4th, when a 22-year-old man called his mom to tell her that he had finally raised the $9,000 he needed to attend college. He had a lifelong dream of becoming a computer programmer. He had been working for years selling clothes and other goods on the streets of lower Manhattan, and on his way home on February 4th, just after midnight, he encountered four NYPD officers by the names of Sean Carroll, Richard Murphy, Edward McMillan, and Kenneth Boss. With one officer yelling, "I see a gun," while attempting to question Mr. Diallo, the four officers opened fire and fired 41 rounds, striking the 22-year-old 19 times. Although the officers claimed the young man had a gun, when they examined the body after the shooting, they would only find his wallet and his keys. His mother would go on to create a scholarship in her son's name to help those who were struggling to afford college expenses. He had worked so hard to raise the money only to lose his life a mere 4 days later. In 1999, the likelihood of justice for an unarmed black man seemed unheard of. But people did protest and rally, and as the publicity boiled over, four white men killing an unarmed black man, the state would make the decision to move the murder trial from the Bronx to Albany, New York. This decision would result in the acquittal of all four officers. On another cold day in February 2012, a 17-year-old teenager was visiting his father to watch the NBA game. He walked to a nearby 7-Eleven to grab some snacks, which included Skittles and an Arizona iced tea. On his return trip home, he drew the attention of a neighborhood watch captain in a sport utility vehicle. This adult called to report a suspicious person in the neighborhood. After following the young man for several minutes, he confronted the teen. According to other residents in the neighborhood who would hear the incident outside of their apartments, they could hear the scuffle and one of the persons yelling for help. They would next hear a single gunshot wound. The teenager would lay dead. George Zimmerman would eventually stand trial, but only after huge public outcry. Due to a law passed by Republican Governor Bob Martinez and the 2005 law signed by Jeb Bush, Florida residents now have the right to use deadly force against a threat without any duty to retreat. Since then, 17 other states have passed similar stand your ground laws. A 2010 study found that the justifiable homicide rate in the Sunshine State had tripled since the law went into effect. Prior to his encounter with Trayvon Martin, police records showed that George Zimmerman had called police over 41 times. Due in large part to the law, George Zimmerman would be acquitted. On February 23rd, 2020, a 25-year-old former athlete was jogging on a Sunday morning. Two men, a father and a son, the elder being a former cop who had recently retired from the DA's office, spotted Aubrey jogging. The two men decided to grab their weapons and pursue the driver in their pickup truck. They would also call a friend to join them in their pursuit. Within seconds of confronting and cornering the jogger, who was unarmed, the trio would have weapons drawn, and Mr. Aubrey would lay dead on the street from a gunshot wound fired from the weapon of the son. Due to their law enforcement connections, all three men were initially released with minimal investigation. Fortunately, cell phone video would be released by the participants, which would prompt the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to take over the case and charge all three men with capital murder. This family would not have the same outcome as the other families. Their nightmare would end differently. All three men in this case would be convicted, both at the state and federal level. I know we often believe that change doesn't happen. We feel like progress was something that maybe happened in a past generation or with some other different group of people. Fortunately, in the last 20 years, the ability to get justice has seen a shift toward a fairer application of the law. So when people tell you that no progress has been made, remember the names Amadou Diallo and Ahmaud Aubrey. This has been your Black History Month Minute for Monday, February 5th, 2024.